Hello everyone! Finally, here's the third part of the knitting tutorial for Audrey dress. Just some more steps and we have the dress ready to wear. At the point when we get to the part yoke in our written pattern, you can find the link to it in the description below, we've already finished the skirt and two sleeves. In this part, we are going to join them, then knit all the way up to the neck level, simultaneously doing the creases. We also make an opening on the back to make it more convenient to take the dress on. And finally, I show how I knit I-cord edge and grab the armholes. Seems like we still have something to do, but I hope this tutorial will be helpful in making every step easy and enjoyable. First of all, I take a skirt part. I stop my knitting there just before the armhole, that is where I have the beginning of the row. I have my long circle needles here. I also have armholes already separated. Now I need to join one of the sleeves. And I take the ones that already have needles. To reduce the length of the stretch here, which will definitely be too long, and make the skirt better joined to the sleeve, I knit the first stitch and then slip the stitch from the main needle over it. And to regain the same amount of stitches, I make a stitch through the loop under this first stitch. So you see that now it looks tighter here. Now I keep knitting the sleeve stitches. I've done with all stitches of the sleeve and now we'll join the other side of it to the skirt. For every joining part, I do the same way. Then I'm going to knit all the stitches on the other side of the skirt. When I reach the other armhole, it's time to join another sleeve. I do it the same way, but of course, first I need to place all the stitches on the needle, no matter which size they will be. If you lost some stitches while they were hanging on the waist thread, don't worry, take it with a crochet and lift them up. The trick here is mainly to use a thicker waist thread when you place stitches on it to keep them tight in their place. So I'm knitting all the stitches of the second sleeve. Finally, I have to knit across the other side of the skirt, and then my skirt and sleeves will be happily joined together into a dress. Don't forget about the marker to clearly see the beginning of the row. The next step is to knit 5 knitting rows that later on I will fold together. So let's start with knitting 5 rows. When rows are ready, I'm going to do basically the same as I did with the folded cuff. I need to find the stitches of the 5th row. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5th row. I take a spare needle and lift up some stitches. And then I do absolutely the same as I did with the folded cuff. I place both needles together, the main and spare one. I move the front stitch to the back one and knit them together through the back loop. As before, every time I will lift up some stitches, work them and lift up the next part until I've worked all the stitches and reached the end of the row. Let's read the decreasing part together, taking as an example my size. Decrease evenly 28 stitches 2 times every 8th row. And then I see how many stitches will be left after every decrease. As I'm supposed to do decreases every 8th row, first I need to knit 7 knitting rows without any decreases. When 7 rows are ready, in the next 8th row I will do my first decreases. The total amount of stitches I have now, according to my pattern, is 210 stitches. I have to decrease 28. Using the decrease calculator, check the link in the description, I get the next instructions. I start with 3 knitting stitches. Then I have a repeating part of K to talk, knit 2 stitches together, plus 6 knit stitches. This part I repeat 7 times. After completing the whole decrease instructions, I will get 182 stitches. When I finished the first line with decreases, I work the next 7 knitting rows without any changes. In the 8th row, I will again evenly decrease 28 stitches as it said in the pattern using a decrease calculator. The next instructions are for decreasing again, but with some changes in numbers. I will just have fewer rows between decreases, the rest will be the same. When all decreases are done, I need to find the center of the back. That is the place where I want to make an opening. I just count stitches on the back and between sleeves and then mark the center. The number may be uneven, so we'll simply have, as me here, one side slightly wider than the other. But in this scale, the difference is insignificant. I also mark 5 stitches to the left and to the right from it. Then I keep knitting my row until I reach the center of the dress back that I've just marked. Since now we will knit our dress back and forth. These 5 stitches that we separated have special instructions, so first I turn my knitting. I slip 1 stitch, then 4 knit stitches, marker. For the rest of the row, I do either knit or purl stitches depending on the knitting side. Now I'm on the wrong side, therefore I will purl until the next marker. After the marker, I have 4 knit stitches, and the last one stitch purlwise. I finish with the first row of the opening. Together I need to knit 3 rows. As I already finished one, I need to knit just 2 rows more. Next row, I repeat doing the same with the first and last 5 stitches that I marked, but the part between will have a separate chart, chart 5. I knit the first 5 stitches as before. Then I follow chart 5. The first row is K to talk. Knit 2 stitches together. Then yarn over. Then repeat them until the marker. Pay attention that the last stitch before the marker will be yarn over. And then 5 stitches after the marker, and the row is ready. The main part of the next row, if you look at chart 5, is only knit stitches. But don't be confused here. The chart shows the right side of the knitting. It means that I will see the next row on my right side as knitting stitches. So as I am on the wrong side now, I do purl stitches here. So when I do purl stitches on the wrong side, I get knit stitches on the right side. That is how it should be. Row 3 is opposite of the row 1. I start with yarn over and then knit 2 stitches together. And all this I repeat until the end of the row, and I remember that 2 stitches together will be the last stitch before the marker. Row 4 is again supposed to be the knitting row on the right side, so I do purling on my main part. The first and last 5 stitches are the same as before. After that, I make 2 rows in stockinette stitches, which means that I work knit stitches on the right side and purl stitches on the wrong side. The next is to do the final decreases of the yoke. It will be again 28 stitches. I decrease them from 98 stitches I have in total. For this decrease, I also have to exclude 5 stitches in the beginning and at the end of the row. Therefore, in my calculator, I put 88 stitches and 28 stitches to decrease. The first and the last 5 stitches I do following my previous instruction. And the part in between I decrease the next way. The yoke is ready. I start working I-cord from the rest of the yarn as I need very little amount. I take double pointed needles the same size as before and cast on 4 stitches. Then I knit 1 row. Then I move the stitches to the right end of the needle and knit these stitches again from the beginning. Then I move them and knit again. and so on until I get about 20 centimeters of I-cord. Now I want to join the stitches of the neck. I place 4 stitches to the main needle. And start knitting them. 1, 2, 3, and the next one I knit together with the 1 stitch of the neck. I return all stitches to the main needle and knit them again. 1, 2, 3, 2 stitches together. This way I have to work all stitches of the neck. So we'll keep returning all stitches to the main needle, knit 3 stitches, knit 2 stitches together, and this way I will get the neck edge for my dress. When I have only 4 stitches left, I start knitting only them. Just 4 knit stitches, and basically I do the same as in the very beginning of the I-cord. It will be another 20 centimeters. When I need to cast off the last stitches, I will do K2 together for every 2 stitches. Then slip one over another, and then the loose end I will hide inside the I-cord. After blocking, this thread will sit very well inside. For a better understanding of the idea of how to grab the armholes, let me show you this part on a sample with a thick yarn and contrast thread. This way you will clearly see what I'm doing here. Let us imagine that this is an armhole of my dress that I need to graft, or simply say, join together both parts the way it looks invisible. However, I take here a contrast thread so you will see every stitch. I cut some lengths, maybe 3 times longer than the length of the hole, and I take a needle that is big enough for the thread, but not too big as we need to get it through the stitches. And last, I release all the stitches I had on my stitch holders or waste yarn. It happens that some upper stitches here might be lost, especially on the edges, but don't worry, you can leave them up again later on by needle or crochet. Fortunately, I don't have this problem here. Let us start with the first upper stitch on my right and get the needle with a thread through the loop down up. Make sure that the loop is not twisted. Then I want to connect it with the first right stitch on the other side, and I get my needle top down, and right after I get the needle to the next stitch but down up. You see, I've already connected 3 stitches, but still it is not very clear what I'm going to get. Let us continue. The next, I pull the needle again through the stitch, but this time top down, and right together with it, I connect the next stitch down up. And now you can actually already see that I'm simply repeating the thread way of our ordinary knitting. This way I will keep connecting all stitches. I get back to my bottom stitches. The needle first goes down to the previously connected stitch and then goes up through the next stitch. If you see the lost stitch, just lift it up and make a stitch how it should be before you connect it to the rest of the row. I use my needle here. When all stitches are grafted, I still have small holes by the edges. I need to grab them too. As you already noticed, the last stitch is not completed. Therefore, I get my needle, thread once again, top down, and connect to the side the same way as I did with all stitches. Here I'm just using the loop that is on the same level as the last one. You can see it here, and then I pull the needle into it. Finally, I use once again the last upper stitch to connect it to the side stitch on its level. With the contrast thread, you can see clearly where I need to get my thread further to complete the stitch. So I get my needle to the same hole and leave the thread on the wrong side of my knitting. This side of grafting has been done, and now let's finish the other side where I left some thread exactly for this reason. This side of grafting has been done, and now let's finish the other side where I left some thread exactly for this reason. Here I use the same principle to join the sides. The grafting has been successfully completed. Here I also made a simple embroidery. I'm really far from this type of handmade, but still wanted to have some nice decoration. So that's the most I can make at the moment. I'm pretty sure you can find a better way to decorate this part, or if you don't want, just leave it untouched. If you find the complete tutorial helpful, don't forget to send a like, as it keeps me even more motivated to share with you free patterns and tutorials. And for now, I say goodbye and see you next project.